All I have to do is talk to it.
Yep, it's going to record it. It has a micro. Well, let me see here. Yeah, it's recording. It has a microphone and it's recording. Well, we can flip there. It's recording, and you're just going to tell fishing memories.
Okay, folks. This is Alan Letcher County from Gordon, Kentucky. My daughter Theresa wants me to tell you some fishing stories. I'll tell you about one that was really, really good. It could have been my best trip ever. I parked my truck at one bridge. Theresa took me upstream in her vehicle and let me out at the next bridge up, which was 1 mile away. But the way the river meanders around back and forth, it's a lot more than 1 mile. I had a lure already on the fishing pole, and I started fishing, and so I was at the river in the first hole of water. About the first 3 casts, I caught 3 big bass. I turned everything loose that day because I didn't want them. And I was fishing this one big hole of water, and I was catching so many fish and having such a good time that I didn't even change lures. And finally I said, I better get going if I'm going to get to the truck before dark. Well, down the river I went, using the same old lure. It was a number 3 Mep spinner with a silver blade and a white tail. That whole mile trip, fishing trip that day, I never changed lures because it was catching so many fish. By the time I got done, it would have took 3 grown men to hold up the fish that I caught. There were so many of them. And then I finally got back to the truck. I mean, it was almost dark. I finally got my butt up in the seat, got one leg in, and I had to reach down and pull my left leg up into the truck. I was so tired, I could not get it up there by itself. Well, that was probably, as I remember, probably my number 1 all-time best fishing trips. Now, go back a little bit. After I catch 2 or 3 big smallmouth bass, I take and retie my line onto the lure, okay? And that helps to keep the line strong. And just had a great day. I've had a few bad fishing trips. I've even had one that in the springtime, I did not even catch 1 fish. Nothing. But I had a good time doing it. And you have to go in the spring a time or 2 and not catch anything. Then a couple of weeks go by and you start catching them, you know you haven't missed out on anything. So, let's see. I had my son Tim and his wife Donna took me over east of Dayton, Ohio, to a big pay pond. They had 4 or 5 big lakes, and they had one lake. It's really, it's pretty wide and real long, but it just has big catfish, and you can't keep those. You have to turn them back. Well, we fished for 12 hours, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I got 1 bite. That's it, 1. I was using a dead bluegill. and I got a bite. The line was coming off the reel. I yelled at Tim. I said, "Hey, I've got a bite and it's running. What do I do?" He said, "Set the hook." I set the hook. He just doubled that rod right up. I thought I'd hooked onto a submarine. Well, I fought that thing for a half hour. Couldn't gain much on it. I stood up for a while. I was down on my knees for a while. Finally, I told my daughter-in-law, I said, "Get this pole and you do a little cranking because I'm getting tired." Well, she finally cranks it on in, and Tim got down and dipped it up in a dip net, brought it up on the bank, got it out. Just as he got it out of that dip net, the hook fell out of his mouth. That was the luckiest catfish. Well, it was the biggest fish I'd ever caught in my life. You'd hold it with two hands up to about, its head would be about where your belt would be, and it would drop down, and there was a lot of catfish laying in the grass. Well, I didn't measure it, didn't have nothing to measure it with, didn't have no scales, and it was a pretty good ways back around to the office where I could have got it weighed and stuff. Well, we was afraid if we left our spot, somebody else would grab it. Well, we just threw it back in the lake. But that was the biggest fish I ever caught. A big old flathead catfish, yellow. Boy, he was pretty. But that was the biggest fish. And when I was 5 years old, my brother Harry took me fishing, and I didn't know nothing, little 5-year-old boy. My brother put a little redworm on the hook and threw it out in the water and handed me the pole. I grabbed it with one hand. He said, "Now you got to hold it with both hands." Okay, I grabbed it, and I was just looking all around. He said, "Now, I'll tell you when to pull." Evidently, I knew what the word pull meant. So, in just a little bit, he said, "Pull." Whammo! Back over my back went a fish on the hook, and I took off running to get it, and he was yelling, "No, no, 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 stop, stop." But I went right on anyway and grabbed that fish with both hands. And those big dorsal fins that's on the top of the back went right into the palm of my hand. I had to pull that fish out of my hand, and I throwed it down, and boy, the blood was pouring out of my hand, and I just wiped it off, and Harry got the pole, baited back up, same old thing, hold the pole. I'll tell you when to pull. It was just a short time. Pull. Whammo! Here went a bigger fish. I took off and I stopped. And just for a few seconds, and then I started walking up to it like I was sneaking up on it, and I did not touch it. So I got me a good smart test that day. But that was my first two fish, and boy, I really liked it. And I've got to do it up till 2021. It's September of 2021. I had to give up my wade fishing. I had a couple of real close calls on some ugly accidents, and so I had to give it up. And now I can just go to a lake, sit in my lawn chair, and fish all day. And I thought you'd like that story, my first fishing trip. I'll tell you one more, and then I'd be all for fishing today. Well, me and my wife Moline got married June the 25th, and about the 1st of September, we had moved after we got married, we went back to Winchester, Indiana, and she got pregnant and sick, and she didn't want to live in Indiana anymore. She wanted to go be with her mother. Well, we took off, and I got me a school teaching job for that coming fall, and we'd been married about 6 weeks or so, not very long, maybe 2 months. And I was outside one day. I looked up the sky and I said, I didn't know there was anybody around. I said, it sure would be a good day to go fishing. Moline was standing on the end of her dad's porch. She said, what's this fishing thing all about? I said, we never talked about it when we was dating. I said, well, I guess I had my mind on something else. Well, she said, if you're going fishing, wait till I find my shoes and I'll go with you. We jumped in a car and took off, and I went and caught us some bait out of a small creek, crawfish and minnows and stuff, and went fishing, big hole of water. She'd never had a fishing pole in her hand, didn't know nothing about it. And I got her, showed her how to operate a fishing reel. I'd put the bait on, she'd throw it out, and boy, she started catching big bass, one right after the other. And well, we finally run out of bait. We went back home, and just we pulled up in the yard, Moline's dad was standing on the front porch. Where you all been? And Moline said, oh, Dad said, we've been fishing. And by that time, I had to fish out of the trunk of the car 2 big stringers of bass. But Moline had the biggest string. I said, look what your daughter caught. Boy, he stomped his foot on the floor and said, if a girl can do that, I can too. He'd never been fishing. So next time we went fishing, we took him, and boy, he really liked it. And fished, he just couldn't get enough fishing. And he liked to eat them too. So that was my wife's first fishing trip, and boy, she really liked it. And she'd go wade the rivers with me and fish. And well, we had a good time on that, but that was Moline's first fishing trip. Hey, my name's Alan Letcher County from Gordon, Kentucky. And you all have a good day now. Bye.